Lyn Paolo is a two-time Emmy winner for Homefront and also received nominations for The West Wing and Queen Charlotte. And she's here now to talk about the Netflix series Queen Charlotte. Lyn, I read when you get a job, you obviously start with like the script and what's written, and that flows into research and mood boards and all that good stuff. And with this, I guess since it's a prequel to Bridgerton, and I know you did at least some consulting work on Bridgerton, does that add another layer to your process and preparation at all, knowing that it's a prequel that you kind of have to lean into, I guess, or lead into?
I think, yeah, I mean, and I want to give a quick shout out to Haley, who's also on this, because she was actually one of our fabulous ACDs on Queen Charlotte. So she deserves that shout out. She worked so hard on the show with us. Yeah, the remit from Shonda was, you do what you do to me. We had an early meeting where we were literally, Laura Fracon and I were working on Bridgerton, and Shonda's team reached out and said, we're going to do this prequel and Shonda would like to chat. So we had a chat, and we made a few mood boards, and I actually really pitched, this is a very different period. The 1760s looks completely different from Regency. I pitched that we should base the costumes more on modern fashion, more on sort of a Met Ball, Zac Posen, Christine Dior, Vivienne Westwood feel, but also try to make the show feel like, we're being fairly true to the period, but we're obviously taking artistic license in trying to make the costumes appeal to a modern eye. And I do love that Shonda put at the very beginning of the series, this is not, exact history. We're having fun with this. And I think that's important for the audience to know, because so many historians will say, oh, gosh, that sleeve wasn't quite right. Well, yes, we know it wasn't quite right. We were basically knocking off the Alexander McQueen exploded sleeve. So excuse us, but we're having fun with this. And I hope creating a beautiful, lasting image of a powerful young woman trying to make her way in a very difficult world.
And I definitely think you did that. You mentioned Haley as an ACD, and you mentioned Laura as well. I know you worked very closely with her on this. For you, like, how important is that collaboration with, especially with a show like this, where I'd imagine there's hundreds of costumes and you're kind of building probably a lot and all these different things?
Yeah, I mean, Haley will speak to that for us. Honestly, without Haley and her magic fingers at getting, cutting everything on bias and sending it off to the pleader, we would, I will be forever grateful to her for the hours she spent doing that. It's a huge undertaking, this show. And you're nothing without your crew. Let's be honest. You can have all the most amazing ideas in the world, and you can be sitting in your office thinking, I think we'll do this for this scene or that. But without the amazing technicians, tailors, makers, jewelers, milliners, without that whole, I think we had over 200 people working on the show at one point. Without those teams, you're just sitting in a room drawing pretty pictures. Or with me scratching. I mean, look, I'm even doing it now while we sit here, scratching sort of stick figures that you then pass on to an illustrator. So, yeah, I mean, you're nothing without your team.
Yeah. You mentioned getting what the evolution of Charlotte, obviously, and kind of what we've saw in Bridgerton and getting there with this, I guess, and obviously the eras are so different. Like you were saying, the period is different, I guess. So how did you kind of try to find, or did you try to find connective tissue between what the viewers of Bridgerton would know of Queen Charlotte versus what you're showing in the show, I guess, in this show?
Yeah, I think I was certainly fortunate that I had worked on Bridgerton this season before, for season 2 of Bridgerton, because I really did sort of, and thanks to Sophie, the designer on that season, have sort of a very intimate insight into what Golda's character on Bridgerton wears. And then you sort of had to reverse engineer that look and think to yourself, well, Queen Charlotte sort of, as many sort of middle-aged women do, they stick to the look that they loved from their youth. Yes, young women who grow into, they're like, oh, if you're in the 70s, but you were young in the 50s, you'll still love the Dior look. Do you know what I'm saying? So how to translate that, but also feel youthful. And I think we did that with color more than anything else, because Golda's character is always in those very dark, regal tones. And for young Charlotte, we started with sort of the lighter, the pastels. Everything was burnished or shot with gold or silver as much as we could. A lot of shot taffeta, just to give a hint of the regal elements of Golda's costumes. But we definitely played around with color with all the characters as it happens. And I will say that the thing that was, I think, the most fun for me was that we were also dressing some of the original cast from the Regency part of Bridgerton, obviously Regency, but it was winter in that story arc because it was a sad time, wasn't it? I mean, their princess dies, and how do you tell the Bridgerton side of the story but make it look distinctly different? And it was fortunate that Shonda had written it, that it would be, this whole arc into the winter and then spring again, when gardens are in bloom. So it was a joyous, when I look back now, as difficult as it might have been to be away from my family for as long as I was living in London, and I loved London, and the crew was amazing. I just think Queen Charlotte is one of those shows that you look back on in your career and think, yeah, that was a special moment.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Shonda a lot. Obviously, I know you worked with her frequently, and I guess how is she as a collaborator in terms of the costumes, and kind of what are your discussions like usually?
Yeah, I just saw Shonda last week, and I'm actually working for her right now on a new show. I'm really lucky and fortunate that I get to work with her because she loves the costume department. She absolutely adores getting sketches, and she's a fabulous collaborator, although she gives you, honestly, the most creative freedom. She often will say, are you happy with that? And I'll go, yeah, I like it. I want to change this, this, and this. And she goes, you do you, basically. Off you go. Which is a great gift for a costume designer. But she's also very specific about what she wants, and I appreciate that. So that whole sequence in the coach at the beginning, and that fantastic speech about I'm going to be impaled by whalebone, that whole sequence with young Charlotte with her brother in the coach heading to get married, was all on the page. I mean, the only thing we changed is that I wrote to Shonda and said, I really want this gown to be sort of in the blue tones, and can we change the stones on the bodice to sapphires? She had written rubies, and she goes, yeah, of course, yeah, I'll change it. So it's lovely to have that, be able. And by the way, she was not in London, obviously, she was in the States, so thank goodness for technology that we're able to communicate so quickly.
Yeah, one of the great things about technology, I guess, is that many negatives maybe as well. I guess
we're all trapped in our homes during COVID.
Yeah. It's great. I was reading, I think there's something like 80 gowns for Charlotte, is some in that range, I guess. Does that sound right to you as having
people do ask me to quantify, and to be honest, we didn't keep check, but I would say we were up there, and at one point, and I think Haley will remember this, I sort of remember the line producer writing to me and saying, or calling me and saying, you're making an awful lot of gowns. Do you think you'll really need them? And I said, I kind of know we will. It's because, and having worked with Shonda as much as I have, I know she loves a quick change. She likes, I mean, on Scandal, we have the same thing, quick change. And why not? Why not give the audience the pretty? A little bit of shoe porn, a little bit of gown porn. I think, it's such a beautiful period, and so lush, and the jewelry and the hair accessories. And so, if you're going to do it. Don't be, a deep dive into as many costume changes as you can.
And quickly, because we have to wrap up, do you have a favorite? Can you pick a favorite, I guess, of the Charlotte looks?
Oh, I just love it all. I think I do have a great fondness for her, both of her wedding gowns. I just thought they ended up being quite beautiful, and I shouldn't pat myself on the back because it was the whole team, but I think they both served their purpose well for the story.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. Lyn Paolo,
Nice to meet
an Emmy
you.
nominee for Queen Charlotte, and a Queen Charlotte on Netflix. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.